Well, hello, veterans, DKV employees, everybody watching. Oh, welcome back to another video. I really enjoy these Tuesdays with everybody. Appreciate everybody's support. It's really nice to be able to put something educational out there and try to help the process out. We're definitely doing everything we can back here at Lang's Legal to help veterans out. You've probably seen the changes by now as we're starting to add more areas of law or have added more areas of law to help veterans out, at least in the states of Arizona and New Mexico, where we have the license to practice law. Keep in mind, though, VA disability, VA benefits, VA compensation, VA just benefits in general, I suppose, however you want to term that here today, is a federal benefit. So I practice that nationwide, and I'm allowed to. So, no veterans, no matter where you live, give us a call, reach out to us, book an appointment on veteranlink.com. Let's see how we can help you. Hey, we got another topic for today. Let's get into it. So, VA's Office of Inspector General, the OIG, had recently looked at something most veterans never see. So what happens when VA claims processors override warnings inside VA's rating system? This is a very interesting topic. Very interesting topic for me. Somebody who's worked inside the VA and really seen this in action. So let's see if we can break this down. Now, this is going to matter because those overrides can affect rating decisions. They can affect reexaminations. It could be improper payments that can get involved here, and the stress veterans experience during the claims process could be affected. This is not a story about every override being bad. Some of those overrides are necessary. Some are good. Sometimes the VA computer system is wrong. Sometimes the facts of a veteran's case do not fit neatly into a rules-based tool. In those cases, a VA employee may need to override a warning or calculate a result to get the right outcome. But the OIG did find a real problem. In a large number of cases, the override was not warranted or was not properly explained. So let's do it. Let's break it down. As your friendly VA-accredited attorney, Matt Lang, let's do it. I am here to break this down for you. Hey, don't forget again, as I mentioned, this is a video that is for general education only. It's not legal advice for your specific case. Every VA claim depends on the facts, the evidence, and the law that applies at the time of that decision. If you want legal advice, or you're looking for legal advice, or you're looking for representation, VSOs, accredited attorneys, accredited agents out there are there for you, including ourselves at veteranlink.com. Feel free to schedule some time on our calendar there. So this actually goes back to May 27th of 2026. I'm a little bit behind, you can say, on this one. I did debate this topic for a little while, but it's definitely important. So here we go. On May 27th of 2026, the VA Office of Inspector General, the OIG, again released a report called Review of VBA's Process for System Overrides. The report looked at overrides in VBMS-R. Now, VBMS-R stands for Veterans Benefit Management System for Rating. Now, VBMS-R is the system the VA uses to help manage and complete the compensation rating decisions, or even some of the non-service connected pension decisions as well. So ultimately, those decisions when it comes to compensation and pension. It includes rules-based tools that can warn claims processors about possible problems. Supposed to actually be a tool that's there to help out the decision maker in remembering certain things and catching certain things. So, for example, the system might warn about pyramiding. Pyramiding, again, is when the same disability symptoms are rated twice under different diagnostic codes. VA regulations generally will prohibit that. Now, a veteran can be rated for separate disabilities and sometimes separate symptoms, but VA is not supposed to compensate the same manifestation twice in some cases. So the system can also flag reexamination issues. A reexamination issue when VA schedules a future exam to see whether a disability has improved or whether a temporary evaluation should change. That can be appropriate in some cases, but unnecessary reexaminations can create cost, delay, anxiety, and sometimes real harm to veterans. So the OIG reviewed a statistical sample of overrides from April 1 through September 30, 2024. even they're a little bit behind perhaps on this too. During that 6-month period, VBA completed an estimated 50,800 overrides. The OIG found about 24,100 of those overrides involved housebound, EVA and evaluation builder issues, and effective date builder issues inside the system. For those categories, the OIG found the overrides it reviewed were warranted. That part is important. This was not a report saying every override is a problem. The problem was concentrated in two areas: reexaminations and permitting. The OIG estimated there were about 26,600 overrides involving those reexaminations and permitting, and of those, about 9,900 or 37% were not warranted or were not supported with a valid justification. This is really the heart of the report. About 5,200 of those override decisions were not warranted. Another estimated 4,700 may have had a warranted override, but the explanation did not meet VBA's own definition of a valid justification. Here's what this means in plain language. If VA is going to override a system warning, the claims processor should be able to explain why. Not with a vague note. So claims processors, you've got to be able to explain why, not with a vague note. I'm going to highlight that because, well, I see the bad and the ugly, and I see a lot of your decisions, and they're vague, and they're not well described either. So I can only imagine this carrying into your overrides here. So just take note of that. Now with a checkbox, that is not telling anyone anything. Again, so don't just click boxes and expect that to explain everything. There, VA, just kind of word of wisdom is there. A word of wisdom is somebody who's used the system before. You've got to show it with a reason that shows the override has a correct and reasonable basis in the evidence, the law, or VA policy. So it means you've got to know the law, you got to know VA policy, and you got to know why you're doing what you're doing when you override. The OIG said VBA did not have published guidance explaining what must be included in a valid override justification. Well, maybe that's our problem. And according to the report, VBA has not conducted regular quality reviews that would have claims processors' feedback about these overrides. Not to be overly opinionated, but as somebody from experience and from my own experience and my own opinion, not a surprise. This would definitely be a management leadership problem, in my professional opinion. It is also a veteran-facing problem because bad overrides do not stay inside the computer system. They can show up in real claims. The OIG gave two examples. In one reexaminations example, a claims processor granted service connection for a disability that warranted a temporary 100% rating for 6 months, typically a cancer, followed by a 10% rating after that period. But the processor overrode the reexamination warning, scheduled a reexamination 3 months later, and continued the 100% evaluation. Let's look at that in a little more context. So the idea is veterans, there's the Code of Federal Regulations has your Part 4, your rating scheduler. Typically cancers get a temporary 100% when they're active or being actively treated. And then there's a mandatory reexamination 6 months after the treatment is completed. But here, as the OIG found, that was overridden, and they set it for 3 months. So the OIG said that was improper because the regulation provided for an assignment of the 10% evaluation, not a reexamination. That mistake resulted in about $16,000 in overpaid benefits and an unnecessary medical exam costing about $490. Now, in a permitting example, a rating decision granted service connection for bilateral flat foot with a 30% rating and separately granted bilateral plantar fasciitis with a 10% rating. The claims processor overrode the permitting warning and used foot pain to support both evaluations. The OIG concluded that was improper because the same symptom was used twice. That resulted in about $3,700 in overpayment. Now, when veterans hear overpayment, they may immediately worry, is VA going to come after me? This report does not mean every veteran with a rating decision involving an override owes money. It does not mean your rating is wrong. It does not mean VA is about to review everyone's file. What it does mean is that rating quality matters. When VA makes an error, the veteran may be affected in different ways. Sometimes the veteran gets sent to an unnecessary exam. Sometimes the veteran receives an improper payment that later creates a debt problem. Sometimes the veteran gets a rating decision that is harder to understand. Sometimes a future review or reduction issue gets created because something was handled incorrectly at the beginning. And sometimes the error may not affect payment immediately, but it creates risk later. The OIG found that 12 unwarranted overrides in its sample led to about $67,200 in avoidable payments. That included about $60,800 in improper disability benefits paid and about $6,300 in unnecessary exam costs. The OIG also found that many unwarranted overrides had the potential to affect future payments or future exam costs. For veterans, there are two practical lessons. First, read your rating decision carefully. Look at the diagnostic codes. Look at the reasons for decision. Look at whether VA is rating separate conditions based on separate symptoms or using the same symptom more than once. This matters especially in musculoskeletal claims, foot claims, nerve claims, respiratory claims, mental health claims, and cases where one condition overlaps another. So pretty much all. Second, pay attention to future examination notices. If VA schedules a re-examination, do not ignore it. Missing a VA exam can create a serious problem, but also do not assume every re-examination is correct. Ask, why is the VA scheduling the exam? Is the condition temporary? Is improvement expected? Is there a regulation requiring a future exam? Is the veteran already rated permanent and total? Is the condition static? Was the disability recently evaluated with evidence showing it is not likely to improve? All these facts are going to matter and more. If a veteran receives a confusing reexamination notice or a proposed reduction, that is a good time to speak with an accredited representative of VSO, perhaps the accredited agent, accredited attorney like myself. For VA employees and representatives, the lesson is also important. Override authority exists for a reason. The system is a tool. It is not a judge. It cannot understand every factual nuance in a veteran's file. But when an override is used, the reason needs to be clear enough for quality review. Later adjudicators, representatives, and possibly the veteran to understand what happened. A good override process protects everyone. It protects veterans from unnecessary exams and bad decisions. It protects VA employees by giving them clearer rules. And it protects the integrity of the benefit system by making some exceptions are actually justified. Now, the OIG made 5 recommendations focusing on guidance, oversight, and system functionality. VBA agreed to implement all 5. The OIG also noted that VBA released a new reporting dashboard in February 2026, but the OIG had not reviewed or tested it yet. So this is not finished. Sounds like OIG's got some more reviewing to do to see how the system is really working, and then VA has kind of the same to make sure that the guidance is all there and the system is working correctly and that those overrides are proper. Ultimately, the big takeaway, VA's rating system can generate warnings for a reason. Claims processors may override these warnings when the evidence and policy support it, but those overrides need to be warranted, explained, and reviewed. I would really highlight this on the decisions too, and the letters that are sent out in the correspondence from the VA to the veteran. I think this is very fundamental and a foundational piece of the whole VA, especially somebody who has experience from working within. But that's just my opinion again. For veterans, this report is a reminder to, again, read the decision, understand the diagnostic codes, watch for the unnecessary reexaminations, and ask questions when something does not make sense. Well, maybe we'll do this in the dark. For those who caught one of my other videos on I apparently don't move enough for my light here to recognize movement. And just talking too long. I don't know. Talking too long. Anyhow, as I reach the end of this video, anyways, I'm hoping this was kind of helpful. I know I didn't go into the depths and the detail of how that override system works and everything. It is internal to the VA. I I I look to this OIG report as something that again demonstrates something that can be corrected in the VA system to make the process smoother. We can definitely add more education there on how it works. We can definitely focus in on the quality of the work. Highly recommended that VA does so, but I'm just one out here I'm saying it, and I'm hoping enough people say it that the VA um, um, is able to make those changes and make the process smoother is what I'm getting at. But I also do recognize that the system is different than it was in 2024. There's definitely some updates and some changes involved. So while the OIG may have found this from 2024 sampling, I think it'd be very fascinating to kind of get a better feel for what the future sampling looks like and a more current sampling as well. But yeah, check out the report, read it all out there. That might answer some of those questions for you. But it is still good to see some place that we've got to fix, something that we've got to focus in on. Quality is really huge. Production is not everything. So, hey, without giving me more opinions, let's educate some more on next Tuesday and see if my lights stay on. It's kind of fun. It's kind of fun. Anyhow, don't forget to subscribe, like if you're enjoying this, and throw in some comments of what you'd like to see in the future as well. Always happy to put something together for everyone. I'll see you next Tuesday.